You're listening to the Hero Up Podcast with Jim Simcoe. Thanks for being here today. Let's get rolling with the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hero Up Podcast. My name is Jim Simcoe, and I'm here with...
I hate this so much. I'm Blake Eugene Bender, and I'm saying Blake Eugene only because Jim won't let me not say it.
Come on, man.
That's the only way we're going to move forward in this thing.
It really is. And you just have to deal with certain people's things. Like, that's just my thing.
That is.
I think it's fantastic. So we're sitting outside on a beautiful Monday. I'm a little out of breath, so Blake's going to he's going to carry the entire podcast because we just worked out and 80 wall balls and 5 miles and whatever else I did in under 3 minutes. It seems like a lot of work. I'm just kidding. So today we're talking about keys to happiness when you're stressed out of your mind. And before we get into that, we have a couple of announcements. In looking this weekend, I did some work on the podcast and looking at all the different things we've talked about. And a couple of different things came up. First thing is we seem to have about 6 topics we talk about. Life purpose.
1.
Health.
2.
Happiness.
3.
Leadership.
4.
Confidence.
5.
And love and relationships.
6.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good combination of all 6.
The whole spread. Covering the
spread of stuff. And what's interesting about all of them, if you've gone back, because how many podcasts do you think we've done so far together?
Well, I've done a total
This would be like the longest, most meandering podcast intro ever.
I've done like 12. You want to know how many podcasts I've done on my, like, with not you?
Yeah.
Also the same number.
Okay. But my point is we kind of have enough stuff to put a book together. We're getting really, really
Is that all it takes to get a book done?
It's not all it takes, but we have a lot of material. I was looking this weekend.
Okay.
So if you guys want to see a book from us, let us know. We still have a free course on the site, jimsimcoe.com/dreamjob, how to get a dream job, how to land your dream job. I'm going to do another one on there as well on starting a business. 2 sites to check out are Hero Up Podcast and jimsimcoe.com. And looking at doing an event towards the end of the summer. So if you're interested in that, just email us and we'll put you on the list. Just email jim@jimsimcoe.com. Blake, do you have any announcements? What else is going on in your life?
I have absolutely 0 announcements.
Nothing going on at all.
Man, my life is, I'm so happy, but I have so few announcements.
Okay, that's fine. Totally fine. All right, so here's where this came up. So the topic today is how to be, or keys to happiness when you're totally stressed out of your mind. And where this came up is that in my world as a real estate developer over the past year and a half, 2 years, it's been beyond stressful, right? So it's been crazy stressful. I've talked about it before. But one of the things I thought about this weekend was like, I've also maintained a certain level of happiness during this time. And I've seen other people do it too. And so I was thinking like, well, anybody can be super happy when things are going well and they've got money in the bank and their relationship's awesome and their health is great. But what does it take to be happy when you feel like you're just stressed out of your mind? And what are the key elements we could give people, some of the keys to help them be happy even when things are not going fantastic? What do you think of that? You're looking at me with your deep blue eyes. I'm not really sure if you're sitting here or you're thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch after we're done.
A little bit of both. I'm kind of interested in both those things. But yeah, I mean, like if you don't at some point, like kind of consider some of these things, then just know that life is ever changing and inevitably at some point shit's going to hit the fan and, hopefully you can get it back on track the way you wanted it. But even so, like you have to be able to maintain a certain level of happiness or hope for happiness at very least. And yeah, it's all good stuff.
Totally agree. So the first thing is to start your day. We're going to go through with some kind of life hacking, lifestyle design stuff, but then also some kind of a little bit deeper philosophical stuff. So the first thing I thought of was to start your day with some simple routines. So are there any routines you do every morning?
I drink coffee every morning, and I would say that's pretty high up there. But my mornings changes like a ton. I was up at 4:30 this morning.
Wow, that's
and I may not get up until like noon tomorrow.
What is the first thing when you do when you wake up? You go right for the coffee?
I stare into the brightest setting on my iPhone to try to convince my brain that it's daytime.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. And
really?
It actually works pretty well.
That kind of sounds like it would work well.
It works because like, that feeling when you're trying to get out of bed and just like every fiber of your being, it's 4:30 in the morning for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And every fiber of your being is just like, go back to bed. But then I just stare at that light for like 6 seconds and it kind of at least gets you over the hump of getting out of bed.
Yeah. 4:30 is early. 4:30 is early. I don't get up that early. I get up at probably 5:15. But I'm also, I don't have a problem getting out of bed. Like when I'm awake, I'm just like kind of wide awake. I look at the dog.
Are you a morning person? Ugh.
Yeah, big time.
I fake it till I make it. People at the 6 a.m. class that I coach a couple days a week, they think I'm a morning person. I'm so not a morning person.
Yeah, no, I am way more a morning person than any other time of the day.
Yeah.
But I like to start my day with a simple routine. The very first thing I do, get out of bed, put my pants on, make the bed. Literally the first thing I do is I make the bed, and it's super easy. I get the dog off the bed.
If your wife's in the bed, do you still make it? Is she out of bed first always?
She's usually not in the bed at that point. So yeah, I know. I make the bed and then start my day. I find, especially when I'm stressed or especially when things are just crazy, I need to start with something really simple and have one thing done as immediately as soon as I wake up. Otherwise, everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about a bad example I do as well. But then the other thing I do is I drink like a glass of electrolyte water. Mm-hmm. So I have like a big glass of water with like some electrolytes in it. And then I feel like I do that, make the bed, I do that. And then the third thing I do is I write in my journal. Mm-hmm. So I write in my journal. I try to, for some reason, this seems super weird now that I'm going to say it out loud. I try to write in my journal at 7:08 every morning. And I don't know why, but I think it's because like...
That's some weird OCD thing that you're just like, weird. Just realizing is a thing right now.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wow, did I just say that out loud? Like maybe we could edit that part out.
7:08 every day. Okay.
7:08. So I try to do it by 7:08 every day. And so I have days where I look at the clock, I start writing. I'm like, 7:05, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, 7:06, 2 minutes. And then when I hit 7:07, 7:08, I'm super stoked.
This is a weird thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then if I get to 7:11, not as happy.
Uh-huh.
Not as happy.
So how could you be?
So I think that starting your day with a simple routine kind of grounds you and kind of gets you in the framework of starting your day. Because I think a lot of people, and I've had this too, where like you rush out of bed, you're like running around trying to get ready for work or whatever you're doing, and you've got no sense of order, and then that just catapults into the rest of your day. Mm-hmm. Do you find that?
I do and I don't. I don't know. Like for me personally, because my mornings can vary so dramatically. Again, today I was up in really, really early. And then
is Jess still awake then?
No,
I mean she's still asleep.
She's definitely asleep. She's asleep for several hours at least.
Nice.
But tomorrow I don't have an agenda that I have to stick closely to.
Yeah.
But again, I think just the natural process of having 20 to 30 minutes to drink coffee and kind of get my brain warmed up to the day is really the big key for me. Because I feel like, and maybe this is a sign of a chemical dependence that I need to address, but nonetheless, my brain responds very positively to a little stimulation. And
do you have caffeine before you have breakfast?
Usually nowadays. That wasn't always the case, but usually
What time do you eat breakfast and what do you have for breakfast? Because I feel like here's what I do. I feel like this is the one thing I do really wrong is like I've tried the intermittent fasting thing. I've tried not to eat until later on and it just doesn't really take. But I don't like breakfast food. I don't know what the hell else to eat. So I don't have breakfast.
So I'm a big believer in all of your rules are bullshit that you have ever created. Mine
specifically or people in general?
No, yours specifically.
Okay, that's great.
And like the idea of having breakfast food at any time, like you can have breakfast for dinner. I also literally had leftovers for breakfast. You know what? I also had I had breakfast. I got up at 4:30 a.m. I had breakfast at 5:50 and then again for 10 minutes at 10 o'clock and then again at 11 o'clock. So I ate my breakfast over the course of 3 different partition parts of the day.
What was it? What'd you have?
And I had noodles, cabbage, and sausage because that was left over in marinara sauce, and that was leftover dinner. And I was just like not in the mood to make anything in addition for breakfast. But like I don't know, I felt like it went down just fine, and I felt good.
So you don't have like a set routine around breakfast. You kind of have whatever you have, but do you have something every day?
Usually do. I've kind of experimented with like having it later in the day or going for my first 4 or 5 hours without any food. Yeah. But like I grew up eating breakfasts upon 30 seconds of waking every morning. So I was like really used to that. But I like the idea that I don't need to be anchored to one certain routine. And like, if it creates stress, if you don't do it, like that to me is a little bit of a bad sign. So which is maybe like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
The thing for me, if you took away coffee, I would absolutely be stressed about that. Where if you said, you're not going to eat breakfast for 4 hours, I'd be fine. If you told me like, you got to work within 10 minutes of waking, I'd be fine. If you told me I didn't work until 2 in the afternoon, like I can operate in all those. So I think like for me, having that flexibility or like being able to survive in all those different circumstances is kind of important. But that might be the antithesis of you and your routine and
but it works
structure.
Though.
Yeah.
I mean, if that works for you, that works for you. Like your routine is that you almost don't have a routine.
And you can be the judge as to whether it's working.
Well, I mean, it seems like it seems like it's working for you.
It's good for me. Yeah, it works out.
Okay, so the next thing. Well, let me back up. Tell me about a time when you've been super stressed out.
So in a 3-month window of time, I got married.
No invitation.
No invitation.
That was not. We won't talk about that. That'd be a different one. We'll title that podcast.
I got in this 30 minutes of Jim time. Crying. I got married, rebranded my business, expanded the physical space in which we operate. Purchased a house. My sister and her boyfriend moved in with my wife and I, and we adopted 2 puppies, all within this tiny little window of time. So that's a lot. Fairly stressful. Yeah.
What'd you do to sort of maintain your center during that time?
I was a wreck.
Sure, you're a wreck. And I think that's important to acknowledge. Like when you're super stressed, it's okay to be a wreck.
Yeah.
Right. Like no one's expecting anyone to be perfect.
I mean, it's easy though. Like for me, it was just like maintain the relationships that are important to me. So, the people that I'm close with, that I'm kind of building my life, aside, with and along with, and taking care of my body. Just like for me, that means moving my body on a pretty regular basis. I'm sure that I took a hit in that regard to some degree, but like I was still doing stuff several times a week. So that's plenty.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, cool. The other thing I have on my list in terms of when you're super stressed, one way to increase your happiness is to journal. Do you ever journal?
I don't know. I podcast, which in some ways is almost like me verbally journaling.
Yeah, it is.
I also had a relationship with like a exercise kind of coach for many years in which I wrote all of my training notes into that. But also like coinciding with that was basically like, this was affected by my schedule, which was affected by this is going on in my life.
Yeah.
And so it ultimately like all kind of blended into like, here's what's going on in my world. And here's how it impacted me from a physical perspective. And so it's almost like the manifestation of.
Did you like doing it?
I currently am trying to allocate my time into other places, but I feel as though it had been extremely helpful for building self-awareness.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, I do it every morning. As of August 22nd, it'll be a full year where I haven't missed a day, really? even after surgery and everything else. And it's one of the things that sort of centers me first thing in the morning. Quite honestly, I don't write that much. And if you read some of it, you'd be like, Jesus, this is like horrible.
Do you ever let your wife or kids read it?
Yeah, I've let them read parts of it, but there are parts of it where like I was writing today, something was going on and I was just feeling super annoyed about something.
Yeah.
And I was writing that down. And I was like, God, I feel, starting on Monday, super annoyed. This sucks.
Yeah.
But I think just the act of getting it on paper felt good. And then afterwards I felt like a little bit better. I mean, I'm a big fan of like whatever works for whatever reason, you do it.
Yeah.
And try it. And so I'm open to trying everything. And that's one of the reasons, we've got, I think 11 things on this list and people will try some of them, and they'll work and some of them won't work.
Totally.
It's just like, it is just what it is.
Or it'll work for some time and then it won't work. And then it'll work again down the line when other things line up.
Yeah, totally. So the next thing I have on here, which I wanted you to talk about is, because maybe you'll be able to talk in more detail than I will, but like heart pounding exercise, like actual, like this workout that we just did, 40 wall balls, freaking rope climbs and lowers, sled pulls, running a 400 and then, repeating all that. And it's like, you really get your heart going, you're sweating, you're really kind of getting after it. Talk to me about how that relieves stress and the implications of doing something like that.
I think there's kind of 2 different angles to address that from a physiological perspective or from like, what is that doing to your body perspective? In some respects, it could actually be more stress inducing to a degree because like your body is like physically being exposed to physical stress. That's what exercise is. It's trying to create challenge for your body to overcome. So in that respect, like you might evaluate doing something that's a little bit like softer, if you will, whether that means like, something that you feel more pleasant as you're moving through. If you feel like you're becoming unwell because of the amount of stress in your life.
Right.
On the flip side of that, it sounds as though what like you find really beneficial is just the act of being really present in something. And though there are multiple different ways you could approach this, the act of like doing something where you're so focused on what's going on in your body,
right?
It doesn't allow you to be thinking about what else is going on in your world. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about it. But you can also get that. Some people probably get it from dancing. Some people probably get it from like rock climbing. And if you're 30 feet up and you're afraid of heights a little bit, like you're only thinking about that thing. Or
you afraid of heights?
I'm pretty good with heights. I'm not too bothered. I really like talking shit at basketball. Like that's one of the most thing. That's speaking of which, so funny.
God, it's so funny that this is going to come up now.
What was the? We played a little basketball a couple weekends ago,
having nothing to do with the podcast. But now take a quick break while Blake talks about the basketball game we played the other day. Go ahead. Every moment. Let's go.
What was our record head to head? It's like 7-2.
I don't even know if it was that
describe
good.
why your team won in the second grouping of gentlemen we played with.
Because I think one of them was 6'7" and played in college. It might have been that.
And you were guarding me, and we were just like totally distracted.
Blake, if you're talking shit in his ear and tickling him, he's not very good at basketball.
Totally de-invested.
Yes, I just got in Blake's head and just took up space.
Yeah.
That was not a great basketball experience.
No, I had fun.
Yeah, well, you should. You're much bigger than I am, and younger, and better, and taller. These are all reasons why you should.
And I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Anyway, well, that concludes the heart pounding exercise portion. How long have you been waiting to get that out?
Oh man, ever since we started this podcast.
Another key to happiness. I'm gonna keep going on the
rapid
list.
Fire, baby.
Is to focus on what's important and let go of shit that doesn't matter. So I can talk about my own example of in doing this real estate deal that I've talked about, which you guys have got to be sick of hearing about by now. God knows I'm sick about talking about it. As exciting as it's been, it would be very easy for me to focus on all the subcontractors and the general contractor we had before and how they totally fucked us over and how they cost us extra money and brought this certain level of angst in my life. But what I realize is like, that shit just doesn't matter as it relates to this deal. What's important is getting it done and creating something positive out of something negative. This is one that I have written on the list of letting go of stuff that doesn't matter that I have a very, very, very difficult time doing. So I'm being a complete hypocrite because I'm saying you should do this and I don't do this one well. Do you?
Is there anything that you think you could do to do a better job with that?
I'm sure there's tons of stuff I could do a better job on it because I do such a shitty job with it.
What will you do?
I think the thing that I'm trying to do, which I think is interesting now that I'm at the age I'm at, is really trying to focus on the relationships and the things, the things in my life that actually really truly matter and at the end of the day are important in my life. And I'll give you an example. So like I love coming here, right? This is probably one of my favorite places in the world outside of going to my own house. Like this is like a home to me. Like I actually sat in here 2 weeks ago and wrote a whole journal entry sitting in the gym floor because I felt so at home and I had such a rough day. And you were training with Will at the time. And I just sat on a medicine ball and just like wrote. And so I love it here. Love everything about it. But I also recognize that there are certain relationships in here that are non-negotiable to me that if they ever changed, my life would be like less great. Like if anything, but I mean this sincerely, and I also mean this just tongue in cheek, but like with you, right? Like, so you're like literally one of my most favorite people in the world. I would hang out with you all day long, which is funny because we're so different in age and have so many different things in life. But so it's like those things that are, I think of like when I focus on things that are important, that like those relationships are great. So if some subcontractor doesn't like or doesn't agree with me on something, that's a whole big difference than if you came to me and say, hey man, you're acting like an asshole, or this isn't cool what you're doing, or like I'm pissed about this. Like that would be so much more important for me to focus on and understand versus someone who's like not a huge piece of my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
And like having the perspective just to look at these different situations and understanding in what degree is that actually impacting your life.
Yeah.
I have an example of this, which just popped up yesterday, which was that on my way back from the grocery store, my wife and I every Sunday go to the grocery store, get our stuff
seen
done.
The pictures on Instagram. It's amazing.
You do. That's right.
Yes.
And as I try to go to turn the car on, the engine won't turn over and it's dead for the second time in like the last month or so. And so, we get in, we have $300 of groceries, basically, some of which is all frozen stuff. So we're like, oh, great. Like, what are we going to do? And so my wife immediately starts dialing up AAA. I order a Lyft so that they can take me home with the groceries, 5-minute drive, and then drive back with the other car. And over time, this has become a 2-hour excursion of like trying to deal with getting in the car. I end up having to push the entire car to this like, fortunately there's an auto shop like in the parking lot, but have to park it, or push it 400 meters and whatnot. And then they come back and it turns out that there's an issue with my alarm system, that it could have been like a $500, thing, but it's actually a much cheaper thing. So it was like, great. That's like such a good position to be in. But as this stuff is going on, it's like, this is so not what I want to be doing right now.
Especially on a Sunday.
Is trying to figure out like a AAA for the second time in a month. I'm sitting there like, okay, I have to work at 6 a.m. Well, last time they weren't even like rental car companies weren't even open. Am I going to have to switch all of my appointments that I have scheduled for Monday morning? And like all of these things are possibilities. There's a bunch of other financial things that popped up in the last month that were out of the ordinary. So I'm like, okay, so what are we looking at now? And, then I think about it. I'm like, okay, well, whatever this bill ends up costing, like, it's not going to be a life-changing amount of money. It's, my relationships are all great. My health is good.
Yeah.
The people who are important to me, their health is good. And, having just a little bit of moment of perspective, was enough just to be like, whatever, like, we'll be fine and move on. And we ended up having a perfectly jovial afternoon making dumb jokes as we sat on the curb in the parking lot.
That's so great. But you got the car fixed. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, we got the car. Well, I don't even want to go into that, but yeah, the car's here and we're good.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about that stuff, like how, like, I think that especially when you're super stressed and worried about stuff, like if you take a minute to just focus on the things that are important, you're like, okay, like, yes, I could lose all my money. Yes, this business could fail. Yes, this could happen. But it's like, well, does my wife really leave me then?
Yeah.
Do my kids disown me? Does my health automatically go to shit? Like, no, those things don't happen. And that's probably good enough. And like, do I lose all my friends? No, they probably rally around me and help me out, So I think that's a good thing, is like, if you can focus on what's important and let go of shit that doesn't matter, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here's another one that I think is a key to happiness. And I want to get your opinion on this because I don't know if everyone agrees with this. I love it. If I'm super stressed or super worried about something, I like to be invisible in a crowd. So my point on this is I like to go to Phil's Coffee, right? And get a coffee, get an iced tea, eat my mint in my iced tea, as you know I'm fond of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like is super weird. I like being in there knowing that nobody knows who I am. Nobody has any clue what I'm going through. And no one's going to ask me anything about like what's bothering me or what's happening with me.
Yeah.
There's like this sense of like, I'm part of something.
Control kind of over the situation a little bit.
Control over the situation, but then also like, I'm just like an unknown.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things I love about surfing is like it strips away everything, because like you're in the water with a bunch of people you don't know, right? No one has their phones. No one has their freaking Apple Watches on or anything like that. Like you're just in the water.
And Mother Nature don't care.
Mother Nature doesn't care. Mother Nature does not care if you're like, a multi-billionaire from Solana Beach or you're some 17-year-old kid or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're all looking at the same waves doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's something about that for whatever reason, and shit, I don't even know if anyone listening to this is really going to even want to try that. Mm-hmm. But for me, it super works. Like just being invisible in the crowd where like, they don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice.
I'm trying to reflect on that because I don't really know. Like there's definitely been times where I've been like very stressed, but now that I'm thinking about it, like I feel like I can switch on and switch off and those types of things really well. And so I guess I might relate to that, like, because there's been plenty of times where I've had stuff going on and I'll have to work with somebody or, work with a group or something like that. Right. And I just go into, okay, like now I'm going to focus on you and focus on what's, what you're here for. Yeah. And that is a helpful thing, I think, is it just allows you to take your focus off your own problems. Yeah. Which might be a little different than what you're describing, but I guess it might be my own way of kind of coping in that situation,
It's cool. I mean, I think it's something that there's something to be said for it when you're just like kind of stripped of your responsibility to explain to everyone else what's going on. Like if you're in your office and you have a big project or whatever, and people are always looking to you for answers or looking you for a response or whatever, like that just can contribute to the stress. Totally. But if I'm just some random dude in a coffee shop, like no one gives a shit what's happening in my life at all. Yeah. They're too busy focusing on taking pictures of their coffee and posting on Instagram. Next thing. Do one thing a day exceptionally well.
So what do I do?
Think of like if you're super stressed and it feels like everything is kind of falling around all over you. If you can do one thing exceptionally well, I think there's something to be said for that. It gives you like kind of what you're alluding to before about a certain element of control and a certain element of like, everything else is nuts, but this thing is going really well. You have an example of that?
The thing that comes to mind is maybe just like trying to make small connections with people that I'm trying to serve at work and whatnot. And just like being able to look them in the eye and have a short conversation about what's going on in their world or whatever. And like that usually does bring me a sense of like grounds me a little bit or it just allows me to like be focused on someone else. Huh.
That's funny. You went much deeper than my example.
I'm usually pretty surface, but
So my example was 2 weeks ago, we were in here, we were doing hang power cleans. Hang cleans. And I remember...
Can I change mine to doing hang cleans? I'm good at those.
Yeah, you are. Well, no, you can't because that's the one I'm going to use.
Oh, okay.
I remember I just had a really rough couple of meetings and I got in and I was working out and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this rep fucking perfect. Yeah. And I'm going to do this one exactly the way, like the right way. I'm going to do this exactly perfect. And I did a couple reps and I was like, wow, that one was pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but it was close. And then I did another one. I was like, wow, that one was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so like I spent the whole portion of A, which was probably 20 minutes, just thinking about perfecting this one thing and having this one thing of, and it was really cool because it kind of gave me an element of control on a pretty chaotic day. Yeah. And then afterwards I was like, wow, like everything else was kind of crazy today, but like, you know what? I fucking killed those power cleans. Yeah. Or those hang cleans. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah. Just it's all in the little things.
Yeah.
Or is there anything that you eat or make on a regular basis that you're like really particular about? Like here's the process whenever you make the coffee. Here's the process you make a granola bowl or something like that.
Yep. Salmon burgers.
Oh my God. Oh God.
So I love salmon burgers. I love my wife. She's fantastic.
But she doesn't do it right.
I'm not going to say that out loud. I'm not going to say that on a recording. I like them on the grill. I like them super well done. So my go-to thing, if Kelly's not cooking or whatever, is come home from the gym, put a salmon burger on the grill, take a shower, come out, flip it over, and then throw a bunch of like peppers just on the grill with olive oil and balsamic vinegar in a mixer, and just grill the fuck out of that.
That's just the process, though. And if you like one of those things are a little bit off,
I can't do it.
Throws everything off.
Can't do it. Yeah. If it's off, someone else makes it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like it's like oh, this doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
What about you?
I treat the coffee that way. I've been into having like fruit and some cashews and stuff like that in the evening with, man, now that I think about it, it's like becoming more and more extravagant, like every time I make it.
What?
But it's like you just get to control every little detail and that little sense of control, but also like familiarity and something that you kind of look forward to. Mm-hmm. Like it's just that trifecta of making, like the small little pleasures in life.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. Okay. Next thing. You talked about this a little bit before, but getting connected and staying connected to people who love you. Mm-hmm. So again, if you're in times of, freaking out or whatever, I think being around people who love you for you being you is so crucial, right? Like it's like, I think it's very easy to disconnect in those moments. Mm-hmm. And so you have to make an active effort to stay connected to those people, even if you're not talking about, whatever's going on. What do you think?
I think it would be very much a shame if you didn't have that in your life, and you're trying to, life's a big thing. Trying to take it on your own would be a tough one, and I feel as though that's probably one of the strongest assets that I have in my life, is that I'm surrounded by people that are smart and care about me, and I feel hopefully they get to feel that way, at least about me caring about them and reciprocating that. I think that's a much bigger asset to someone's happiness than is even health or
Do you think
money.
It's the most important thing?
I think it could be. Yeah. It's definitely up there. Top of my list.
Yeah. That's cool. And that it's interesting you say it, because it could be different things for different people.
Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, I think it's so crucial, because I feel like if you're stressed or you're worried or whatever, you have a tendency I have a tendency to withdraw or disconnect or whatever. And it's like when people, that I'm close to can reel me back in, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one I got is going to sound super cheesy. This was are you ready?
8 or whatever.
Sure. More cheesy than those. But I read this book recently. It's called The Miracle Equation by Hal Elrod. And he talks about how to, again, I'm saying it out loud. It sounds super cheesy, but how to achieve the impossible and how to do more with your life than you would have anticipated. And he talks about combining unshakable faith and unbelievable effort. So meaning that if you have an unbelievable faith in yourself, and you combine that with unbelievable effort, there are so many different things you can get done that most people would not be able to get done. And I think about, if you think about you guys for a second, right? The example of opening this gym. So what I know about your background and everything else, I mean, it doesn't sound like you've got
any skills.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say $100 million in the bank.
Oh, you're wrong.
Right. Oh, you have $100 million? Oh, that's good to know. Because I wanted to ask you about
there's
something.
An investment opportunity.
Okay, this great investment opportunity. No, but my point is in the beginning, I remember you've told me stories about it in the beginning where you guys started this, you coached every class, and you did everything possible to make this thing successful, and you still, you're now able to enjoy the fruits of that labor a little bit because you've got 2 other coaches. But as one of the first things I thought about with this example is the amount of effort that it takes to go to do that, and then also the amount of faith you have to have.
Yeah.
Not in just yourself, but in your partner and in Eric, and the amount of faith Eric has to have in you. And God knows you guys are vastly different people. So the amount of faith that you had to have in each other, and then both in yourself, and combine that with effort. And now you've created this, this wonderful oasis, this wonderful place. And I don't think you would have been able to do it had you not have both of those things.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely necessary. And I can even think back in terms of the decision to open this business, and to give the listeners more context too. I think I was
Please do.
20, just turned maybe 22 or so at the time.
Jesus.
And I mean, the money that we on some level, it's the kind of consequences of failure are much smaller at that time, because the money that we're investing in it, though it was basically our life savings, was also our life savings from working part-time, and from the time you're 16 to 22 or whatever. It can't possibly be that much money that you save. If shit hits the fan, whatever, I'll move back in with my parents for 6 months before I get another job. There's just not that big of a barrier of entry, to where if I were to think about that now, I think about all the other things that I have that I'm having to keep afloat and all that jazz. So I was not as risk averse then, or I didn't have as much reason to be risk averse. But even then, it was a very big decision to do something like that. And I can remember talking to my parents, who were not very entrepreneurial,
school teacher and lawyer, right?
School teacher and a lawyer, and a federal lawyer. So not even he's getting paid by the government. So that paycheck is coming in every couple weeks or whatever. And so they were just well, what are you going to how are you even going to make this work? I don't think they just understood it. But fortunately, Jessica, my wife and girlfriend at the time, was able to talk to me about the conversations that you have in that situation, which is okay, what are the likely outcomes? What do you want? What do you want for us? She was actually moving down here to go to graduate school. And so the timing worked out really well in that sense. And it was well, what else are you going to be doing? Trying to get a job for the state, because we were in the in Sacramento at the Capitol, and it's just like, and then punch your card and go get beers every Friday afternoon with your coworkers, and that's kind of the life. But that decision became pretty easy. But fortunately, I had people like Eric and Jessica who were like, no, like fuck that. Even though that people don't think that's something that's going to work out, like there's no reason it can't. There's no reason we shouldn't go for it.
I think it's cool. I think one of the things that's the most interesting about your success, or your and Eric's success here, is that you guys are so different. You and your partner are so different, but you're able to recognize those differences in skills. And then you guys both do sort of different things outside of coaching as it relates to running the business. And also I think the risky piece on all this, and this is where the faith comes in, is like, you've been best friends with this guy since you were 5 or 6 or whatever it is, right? Like you grew up together, the whole story. So like if it goes bad, like between you, it goes really bad.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy like, it could have gone really bad
sure.
in the beginning, and luckily, that didn't happen. So I think that's something that when you think about how to maintain your happiness and in times of stress, is like you got to be able to do both. You have to have all that. You have to have unbelievable faith in yourself that it's going to work out, and then you have to combine that with effort. And I know in my own life, it's happened numerous times where I've just been like, okay, like, I don't have a fucking clue how this is going to work out, but I'm not going to fucking fail.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just like, it's just going to work out. I'll find a way to work this out.
Yeah.
Like nothing else. I'll throw hours and effort at it, and eventually it will work out.
Yeah.
And it usually does. That's the funny, it's the thing is like, usually and if you fail, like the failures are usually never as bad as what you think.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point. Like might be a good point to talk about, is like understanding the difference between stress and worry. Because a lot of times people walk around and they're like, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. And stress is really like you're overwhelmed. Like you've got 500 things to do. They're all due today. And if something doesn't get done, somebody dies. Like that's stress. Worry is like a fear of the uncertainty of the future. Or like, I don't think this is going to work out. What happens if I don't have any money? What happens if I lose all my money? What happens if this business doesn't work out? And I think understanding the difference of the two for me was, maybe about 6 months ago when I kind of got the difference of the two. I was actually talking to a therapist at the time, and she explained it, and I was like, oh, so I'm actually not stressed. I'm just super worried about shit.
Yeah.
And half the shit I'm worried about probably isn't going to come true anyway. So like, and there's something empowering about that, like understanding the difference between stress and worry, like, because stress is like, I can't handle it. Worry is like, I'm afraid of what could happen.
Yeah.
Two totally different things.
Totally.
My last thing, which goes along with this, is, in times of stress, is to just suck it up and do the work. You got to do the work, right? Like sometimes you just have to like commit to like, I'm just dropping everything else and I got to get this shit done.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Man, I mean, that's couldn't be truer. I think that part of being happy doesn't mean that you're happy in everything you do in every single moment.
Right.
And if people look around and they feel bad because they're not always happy, like I wasn't happy when I was waking up 4:30 this morning and crawling out of bed and painfully sloshing my way to the kitchen or whatever.
Right.
But I still think I'm a genuinely and generally a happy person, and I have a lot going for myself. And so like most people's lives are going to entail work. And in some respects, I think that's like what makes, things sweet when they work out for you. And it allows you to like relationships are work, businesses are work, based upon the definition, being, exercise and athletics, those are usually related to work.
Yep.
But anything that is, worth anything that like has a positive outcome, like it's probably worth working for. And if it's not worth working for, then why are you even then it shouldn't contribute to your happiness in a major way anyway,
Yeah, totally. I thought about this last week because I had to go to LA for a couple of meetings. And as you may know or may not know, I'm not a huge fan of Los Angeles.
No?
Nope. And I'm not a huge fan of traveling. And I'm not a huge fan of traffic. These are all three things that going to LA for the day.
Does LA has traffic?
A little bit.
It does. Okay.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of traffic. But so I drove up early in the morning, did my first lunch meeting, and then had a bunch of time to kill, hung out with a friend of mine, and then I had my dinner meeting, and then like it was probably like 8:30, like at night. Had a couple, like had a glass of wine and this big meal, and I was so tired, and I could have just easily stayed up there because my friend lives right by there, and I was like, no, I just want to be in like my own house.
Yeah.
So I drove home, and I drove home at, left at 9, didn't get home till 11. Listened to a couple podcasts on the way home, and I was just wiped out at the end of the day. But I think sometimes I remember like thinking as I was driving to LA, I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
But then I remember thinking like, you know what? I just need to suck it up and just do it.
Yeah.
Like don't even, complain about it's not going to change it. And it's not
how much happier will you be when you wake up in your own bed tomorrow and you don't have to drive from LA when you wake up?
Dude, I was so happy going to bed.
Yeah.
And just being like, I'm home.
Yeah.
Like this, I just put 250 miles driving.
Yeah.
But I'm here with my family. I don't like it when I'm away from my family. Like there are other guys who, who are my age who love travel and they love getting away from their family. And I'm just like not that guy. Like I like being around my family.
I appreciate about you. That's a good.
I hope that's good. I mean, shit, they don't think it's weird.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, man, dude, going to bed, I felt great. And then I woke up, fantastic. I woke up, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here. Great.
Awesome. Butterflies carried you out of the bed.
Butterflies carried me out of the bed. The unicorn made my morning smoothie. That was fantastic. That's it. That's all I got. Well, you got anything else?
Thank you for listening again, Mom. And
thanks, Mom. Thanks for checking us out.
Yeah, Happy Mother's Day also.
Oh, right. Happy Mother's Day yesterday.
Happy Mother's Day.
That was a wonderful day. You guys have a good Mother's Day?
I mean, I called my mom and we spoke for 30 minutes, and she gave me the rundown of the life and of a retired teacher, and it sounded nice.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, cool. Check out the site, herouppodcast.com and jimsimcoe.com. Email us. Let us know if you have any show ideas or if you want to be put on the interest list for the event at the end of the summer. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for checking out the podcast today. Really appreciate you guys listening in. If you like what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And you can always check us out online at heroupmedia.com. Heroupmedia.com. Talk to you guys soon.